Greetings, adventurers, and welcome back to the Den of the Drake. Other dragons hoard gold, while I hoard internet cringe. Contrary to popular belief, D&D is a game for social people. Socially awkward people, but it still counts. I could crash my helicopter into a tree, but at the end of the day, I'm still a pilot, damn it! The point I'm trying to make is that the prize you get for winning D&D is being able to make memories with a group of equally nerdy people and maybe walk away with some people you can get into bar fights with on the weekends. Alright, enough of that wholesome crap. You read the title, you know what I'm about at this point. This story ain't gonna be about the power of friendship. Because despite D&D being the perfect place for nerds to socialize, there are people who will try their damnedest to turn a group game into a single-player one. The story I have for you today stars a player who goes out of their way to be as antagonistic towards the party as they possibly can, and the party who is finally starting to reach a breaking point. Now, without any further delay, let's go ahead and dive right into the horrifying world of r/RPG horror stories. Enjoy. This week's story comes from Reddit user Disastrous Sapphire and is titled "Player Keeps Wandering Off, Insulting Our Characters, and Goes Out of His Way Not to Interact with the Party." Because of this being an ongoing campaign, I'm gonna try to keep things as vague as I can when it comes to people's identities. It's hard to say whether this person is a problem player or we just have different playing styles, so I'll leave the jury of Reddit to decide on that. Homie, the jury of Reddit thought a 48-hour protest would be enough to influence the actions of a multi-billion-dollar corporation. I would keep your expectations pretty low. The player in question, that I'll call David, plays D&D in a way that's confusing to me. I've been in a few campaigns with him, and every single time he creates characters, they happen to be distant from the party. Yes, I know, this is a typical lone wolf playstyle where the person eventually warms up to the others in their party. But while that is what typically ends up happening, it feels as if David only travels with us for plot convenience. The best way I can explain it is to give a few details. David's character doesn't appear to trust or like our characters, but they usually come along anyways because we have the same goal in mind. But after that first interaction, he always starts going off on his own. If our party is investigating the inside of a house, David will make it known that his character isn't interested and is bored. When the DM confirms that they're just going to stand there, David will then go outside of the house to explore the shed, or fencing for unspecified reasons. If we go shopping into town, David's never interested in shopping, and when he is, it's never where the group wants to go, and instead of telling us that's where they want to go, they will just leave without saying a word. It could have been a shop that we all planned to visit on our to-do list, but David skips ahead of everything we've agreed as a group and just goes off on their own. One time we were leaving a town. While doing some last-minute preparations, David describes how his character, who doesn't see anything worth doing, separates from us and goes and sits underneath a tree to relax, taking a nap. While the DM asks what he's doing, David says that someone in the group will come find him eventually. One of the players points out that he didn't tell any of us where he was going and that none of us were going to want to waste our time searching for him, when we all agreed to meet up at a specific location and time. Sometimes David will come and find us, but other times he'll just shrug it off and keep waiting on us to find him. For the most part, during roleplay if he's around, David stays silent unless he's saying something out of character to insult us or our plans, but never does anything in character to give their opinion or help in any way. He makes it clear that he's only going along with us because that's what the majority agreed upon. When we ask his opinion, he'll normally blow it off, saying that he can't really think of what to say right now. Or if we're planning, that he doesn't have any ideas of his own. This isn't to say that David doesn't roleplay, he does. But whenever he does do it, he always seems exasperated with our characters. Like whatever we're doing or talking about is pointless. And it's not a lack of interest, he makes detailed characters and seems excited to play D&D in our group chat. But it's like when we start playing, all that enthusiasm turns into pessimism, and the only time he really lets his character's personality shine is during one-on-one roleplay with the DM, in moments that his character is separated from us. But any group efforts are met with silence, demeaning comments, and sarcasm. There are some times that he wanders off and it seems like he's trying to get another character to follow him, because he blatantly asks if anyone is going to try to follow him to see where he's going, or will interrupt us to ask if someone's going to check up on him. So it's hard to tell if he wants to do things on his own or if he wants people to join him. If it wasn't for him constantly talking about new character ideas, his excitement for the next session, and his love of telling anyone who might have missed the session what happened, I would assume that he was in the game for no real reason. He genuinely seems to love D&D. Before anyone wants to throw the DM on a cross and light it on fire, no. Our DM has not been silent about this. Many times, David has been asked to communicate more with the group when they wander off on their own, and the DM has tried to encourage them to roleplay more during moments we're making plans that they keep belittling out of character. To which he has been told it's not respectful of his party members. At one point, when he did this little thing where he wandered off right before we were supposed to leave an area and says he's waiting for someone to come get him, the DM just flat out told him no. This was mostly because our characters were on a time limit, and he had went so far away from us that it would have taken us an in-game hour to bring him back, assuming that our characters managed to find him right away, since our ranger would have had to track him because he, again, didn't tell anyone where he was going. Our DM explained that if his character waited around for us to find him, it was going to hinder his party, and no one was going to be happy with that. David relented and eventually came to us. Reluctantly, I might add. Okay, OP, I won't crucify your DM. Also reluctantly, I might add. So here's my take on the situation. Dave only wants to roleplay when he doesn't have to share the spotlight with other players, and the only way to get him to join the party is playing a game of Find the Man Baby. I'm gonna go ahead and give it to you straight. I think that Dave is doing this all for attention. Everyone plays D&D for different reasons, and Dave's reason is to sit on his little stage and have his friends watch his own personal story play out. It could also be that he wants the benefits of playing D&D without actually playing D&D. The problem with either scenario is that it creates this dynamic of the DM, the party, and Dave, when it really just should be the DM and the party. D&D is a group game. God, I feel like a broken record saying that again. The reality is if you're constantly creating characters that are designed to operate only on their own, again and again and again, then you are just straight up not playing the game right. Full stop. The beginning of every character creation should begin with one question. What does this guy or gal do to supplement the whole of the party? If your answer is, he fucks off and you gotta go look for him, then congratulations, you made a bad character. And that's hard to do considering how Tabaxi are a playable race. But sometimes this attitude can also drift into combat. Sometimes David will refuse to fight the first couple of rounds because the situation doesn't involve him. This could be because we're facing a big bad from someone's backstory, or one of the people in the party went and angered a goblin that now wants to impale them on a stick. This happens often because David will wander away from the party and will either keep doing whatever he went off to go do on his turns, or he will just stay out of initiative completely. This can sometimes throw the balance of the game off when it's planned encounters by the DM. The only time that we can get him to help us is if we both ask in and out of character, which eats up time and bogs the game down as he will argue that his character has no motive in this battle. And a lot of times in the middle of the battle, he'll add in how the situations we're in are, because insert character here, did a dumb, and that he can't believe our characters are jumping into trouble to save someone else who made a poor choice. DM, the other players, and myself can't seem to figure David out. He hasn't been kicked from our group because in our eyes, none of these are kickable offenses, and they seem like minor issues that can be fixed. But they're issues that David might acknowledge one session and change his character's actions, but only for that session because the next he's back to separating himself or not helping out during combat. There isn't any hostility behind it, not even when he's insulting our characters. It almost feels like he's wanting to roleplay a specific way, like those cheesy moments in anime where a character goes off and another character chases after them, and then they have this big confession of feelings or something. But whenever a character does go after him, David just says that he follows them or doesn't really interact with them. And the little interactions that he does do on his own aren't like he has main character syndrome. He does mundane things that don't require a lot of detail. It's hard to figure him out, and when he has been questioned about it, he doesn't really give a lot of answers other than it's what his character would do because they're the loner type. I've met 4 of his characters so far, and they all do the exact same thing. One time, he retired a character because everyone disliked the loner attitude of this random person we just constantly had wandering off, and brought in a new character, only for that character to wander off and seem uninterested in whatever the party is doing, but never voicing it. The only main difference was that this character was less moody than the last and didn't wander off as far, but always made a habit to never explore anything. This character would always stand outside and just wait for us to return. It wasn't as if he was just keeping watch. A lot of times he'd inspect random objects, or when the DM asked what he wanted to do, he would just say that his character was just waiting on us. Sometimes often making comments about how his character viewed us going into dangerous places as stupid or pointless, even if the place wasn't dangerous. If this character was played as a coward, I would understand, but this was never explained or broadened beyond insults. And like I said, it's never in character, it's always out of character. When we do finally say enough is enough and break character ask him what he wants to do, he shrugs it off and says he doesn't have anything planned. We can keep going, he's just milling about due to not having an opinion or any attachments that make him interested in our goals. And then 5 minutes later, we'll then tell the DM he's going outside or going into town to check out the shops. We ask him what we can do to make him more involved, but he tells us that his characters wouldn't have any reason to be interested in what we're doing, or that his character doesn't trust us enough to really get involved. We've tried pulling his characters into role-playing scenes, and he'll usually give a single answer or say that his character is blatantly ignoring us until they, once again, decide to wander off. It's tiring, and I'm at my wit's end because I have no idea what to do. None of our players do, or the DM. Any attempts to involve him in or out of character have been met with boredom or rejection. We ask him if he's having fun, and he talks about D&D as if it was the highlight of his week. At this point, I'm confused, and can't tell if he's a problem player or if maybe he just doesn't fit in with our group styles. However, we do have a group of people with widely different styles. We have the role players, the power gamers, the battle lovers, the meme builders, and we all manage to respect and play each other very well. End of story. So, I actually agree with OP here that nothing is actually a kickable offense, but the constant negativity and disruptiveness of his, roleplay is bringing down the vibe of the whole group. So this is one of those rare situations where the story is an ongoing situation. So my advice here may actually make a difference in the situation. Okay, first piece of advice. Embrace your American blood, buy an AR-15 and learn to use it effectively, but use a musket for home defense because it's apparently what the founding fathers intended. Second, and advice relating to the story, I recommend holding a whole group intervention for this guy. Sit Dave down and say, hey man, we like you, but we really hate your characters. We've talked to you about this before, and if you don't shape up, the love boat will go on and you'll be treading water, friendo. The core problem here is that I don't think David understands that you need to make a character that has investment in the party and what the party is doing. Because if you don't have that nailed from the word go, then you just straight up don't have a character that works. Maybe talk to Dave about intertwining your backstories with another member of the party. Maybe Dave can play the protective older brother of another party member. And the reason why he needs to go into the dungeon is because his younger brother's going in there and he wants to protect his sibling. Now you got built-in character motivation for literally everything, and also built-in character development as he establishes the relationship with his brother. Maybe he can finally have that anime moment where his brother goes running after him in some sort of dramatic family fight. I don't fucking know. This is just an idea. Hell, maybe the relationship that David has with D&D is a lot like the relationship that Will Smith has with his wife. The main commonality being that David prefers to watch other dudes play instead of engaging himself. Sure, Dave isn't nearly as bad as some of the problem players we've seen in other stories who warrant a swift yeeting into the sun, but at the end of the day, the actions of this guy are making the gaming experience worse for everyone involved. And without some decisive action, one of three things is gonna happen. The first scenario is that nothing changes and you keep being miserable. The most likely scenario is that it's gonna get worse. And the best case scenario is that he just walks off one day and hopes that you're gonna go find him. And that one's the best case scenario because all you gotta do is let him keep walking. And on that wholesome note, we have a fan art submission this week. That's right, how about we go ahead and take a look at this week's Gallery of the Drake. This week's fan art comes from viewer Draco Vasile, who has created a gorgeous pencil bust of my divine image. It's flawless, it's exquisite, it's a brilliant representation of my divine being. But there's something about it that feels off. Larry, behold! After $40,000 in 7 years, it's here! Sketched with charcoal made from the ashes of a long-dead elven empire, upon parchment preserved with the blood of the last unicorn, I present to you my new coat of arms. Does that say Dan of the Drake? Oh, motherfuck! Thank you again, Draco Facile, for submitting your art. If you'd like to see your fan art featured in Gallery of the Drake, be sure to send it to the email in my About section. Fan art is my favorite part of doing YouTube, and it means the world to me that I can inspire artists like you to create artwork like this. With the story over and artwork displayed, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you feel like supporting the channel further, my Patreon and merchandise links are in the description. I would like to thank you all for listening, and I hope to see you next time in the Den of the Drake.